By popular demand, the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield Plus 9mm tabletop review. Coming up, you'll see what's in the box, any important notes we find in the manual. We'll take a look at fit, finish, and features, a little bit of trigger talk, show you how to field strip it, and we'll talk about what will be coming up in the shooting video. All that next on GBGuns. But Graham, why are you just now covering the Shield Plus? It's been out forever. There are lots of alternatives. Well, we recently did a video wrapping up and talking about different micro compacts that are out there, and there were a lot of complaints that we did not include the Shield Plus. Why didn't we include it? Well, we didn't have it. See, we're not part of Smith's launch team or any of that kind of stuff, so we didn't have one. I had shot it before and wasn't particularly impressed. More on that in a bit. And I just wasn't moved enough to go buy one. But we had enough complaints that I ran down to my local shop, TJ Gun Sales in McMinnville, Oregon. Great folks. They happen to have one, so I grabbed it. In the box, you've got, of course, the pistol. We have a 10-round flush fit magazine, our federally mandated lock. Let me get this cardboard out of the way. A chamber flag, registration card, and the manual. I'll get most of this out of the way so we can take a look at that manual. But Graham, why do we care at all about the manual? Well, I like to look at the manual because it gives us an indication of how well the company wants us to understand and know the product, thereby really an indication of if they want to make sure you're going to enjoy it or they don't really care. This manual is your standard 4-color. As far as interesting notes that I saw in it, one is that plus P ammunition is okay in here, and I want to applaud an effort made by Smith & Wesson on this section, which is talking about factors of recoil. Now that's of course very important with such a small and relatively lightweight pistol. It's going to be snappier, it's going to have more recoil. I think this is pretty good overall. I don't agree with all of it. For example, let's say bullet weight, higher bullet weight increases felt recoil. It's true you've got to push more mass out, but that's not always true. There are some really heavy loads out there that shoot very softly, but as a general guide, it's not bad. Other important information is right here, saying that plus P is okay, but not plus P plus. And another bit that I got to applaud them for is in the field stripping instructions, which I'm also showing this so that our YouTube reviewers understand that I am not disassembling and building a firearm. I am field stripping it, which is part of basic end user maintenance. Come on, where did that page go? There we go. Right here, as someone who uses ISH, if you've ever taken a look at our playlists in the channel, we're going to gently push the yellow-ish sear deactivation lever later when we field strip this. And yellow-ish, well, I'll let you guys judge if that applies here, but I thought that was kind of entertaining. All right, enough on the manual. Let's take a look at the gun. And see, here it is. First we'll show clear. You do have a witness window on the top of these, which is sometimes better than nothing in that you can look in there, and if you've got the right amount of light at the right angle, you can see if there's something in the chamber. Some people don't like them because it's an ingress point for dirt. I say if you're in that much dirt, maybe bring a different gun. But there we go. Now we can see it's clear thanks to that nice bright orange follower. And with that, slide lock back, we can flip it over and see if we have a magazine eject or release. A little bit of hop there, I consider that eject. That's good to help give a little bit of push to get the grime out. Of course, having metal-bodied magazines helps too. They tend to be slicker and slide out better. This is the 13-round mag that comes with it. It comes with the 10-round magazine, and thanks to the Smith & Wesson equalizer, we also have a 15-round option with which I can get my entire hand on, which is pretty cool. As of the date that I'm filming this, the equalizer is still fairly new and relatively unpopular. Not sure if these mags are quite readily available yet, but we'll see. The texture difference between the equalizer and the Shield 2.0 is significant. It's much more aggressive on here. If you're new to the micro compacts or wondering why they became such the rage, well, these are essentially the same size, and in many cases essentially the same gun as their single stack earlier versions. The Shield's been out for quite a while, over 1 million of them made as far as I know. Was a very popular gun. Moving to this magazine design took your capacity from 7 or 8 up to 10 with the flush fit magazine. Now for hands my size, I'm going to use the extended, which has this bumper on the bottom, which brings 13 rounds. Why is that important? Well, if you're going to do lots of training, it means less reloading. But more importantly, about the same time these things were becoming popular, we started to have lots of mass civil unrest, riots, and things like that. Criminals went from 1 or 2 attackers to sometimes 3 or more. And if you look at the statistics, regardless of the cartridge used, 22 through 44 mag, it was on average just under 3 hits per opponent to stop the fight. Why does that happen? Well, because people move, people get nervous, and not everyone's a great shot. So, regardless of your caliber, you can expect to need 3 hits, not shots, 3 hits to stop an attacker. And if you've got 7 rounds on board, that gives you 2 bad guys, guaranteeing that you do all your hits. So being able to add a few more rounds is better for larger groups, while still maintaining the same size platform, roughly the same size as the original Shield. Miss Tia has been carrying a Shield 2.0 for a while. She's not the biggest fan of it. It'll be interesting to see her opinion of this guy when we get to the range to compare and contrast. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit and do trigger talk, because it's one of the things that I did not like on the Shields and didn't like on the Shield Plus that I was loaned for a training event. However, this one feels a bit different. With an empty chamber, drop the slide and take a look at how this trigger works. We have the safety dingus in the middle that prevents it from moving unless it's depressed. Spring-loaded take-up to a wall. Kind of a heavy wall with a little bit of crunch, but fairly predictable. Reset. It's very soft, but takes you back to that wall, and no crunch that time. So the problem that I had with the Shield Plus that I borrowed, and Miss Tia has with her Shield, is the break point on the trigger is not predictable. In that it seems shorter sometimes and longer other times, and when you have a gun this small they tend to be a little flippy and jump around in your hand, so having an unexpected shot while you're prepping a trigger through a shot is unnerving and discomforting. So for that reason we didn't jump on the Shield Plus when it first came out. Now this is who knows how many thousands of guns down the production line, and as I said, it was picked up at our local shop. So Smith & Wesson doesn't even know we have it, and it's pretty good. That's not a bad trigger. Now we can continue with the rest of the gun and look at fit, finish, and features. One thing I do need to preface is that Smith & Wesson is a lot like SIG, and that they're very good at making lots and lots of variants of the same gun. Their SKUs, which is the individual model type number codes, can run on for days. So there are a lot of Shield Pluses out there. This one does not have a manual safety and is not optics ready, is not ported, and comes with 3 white dot sights. This is the base model, if you will. There are a lot of variants out there. So it may not be completely representative on all those things, and just know when you're shopping, especially if you see huge variances in prices, that feature set is going to vary from model to model. Starting up front, we have a little bit of a bowl cut there to make it easier to holster. Once again, these are typically not training guns going in and out of holsters a whole bunch. It's a carry gun. Goes in the holster, comes out, and no gunfight was won by reholstering faster than the other guy. So it's a nice touch, a little bit of style. Not needed. Slide to frame fit. It's very tight. We have a little bit of side to side. And our lockup is very tight from barrel to slide. We have some front serrations here, just kind of little scallops. The problem with these is you'll notice they are right about the same spot as this contour here. So if you use them, as you're getting a grip and coming back, which is tough on short barreled guns, you're also hitting this bump which sort of knocks you off of them. So it's pretty much a grab from the back kind of gun for press checking and things like that. A little tough to do, but once again, as a carry gun, maybe not so necessary. The whole frame has a slightly rough sandpaper finish to it, which is different than other shields that I've handled. I don't know if that's a new thing, a rolling change they made. The texture itself is the Fisher style and is, on these 2.0s, very aggressive. A lot of people have complained about these. Some people don't care. What Miss Tia did was she got one of those rubberized grip things and just put it on the left side of the gun, the side that's up against her body, so it's not rubbing her stomach raw as the gun slides around. But it is pretty rough. Trigger undercut is not very generous, which for me makes this a 1.8 finger grip gun. With the flush fit magazine, my pinky is pretty much worthless. With the 13 rounder, I can get my pinky on there, and of course with the bigger mag from the equalizer, I can get full 3-finger grip on it. A lot of people don't like having these slide-on tabs on longer magazines. This one is integrated and locked into the base plate. It's not going to slide around, so that is not a problem. It's the ones that slip over the body and just kind of float. Those can sometimes be problematic. This locks in nice and tight, so good job, Smith & Wesson. Witness windows are on the right side of the magazine. That works well while you're loading it, because most people load in their left hand. I prefer them to be on the spine or ambi side, especially if you're doing a lot of training or running drills. You pop out like this as a right-handed shooter, and you get no idea to see how many rounds you have left in here. But once again, carry gun, not a range gun per se. So I guess we can let that slide. From the back, side frame fit is also very tight. Very nice finish on the slide, by the way. Give you a look at our 3 white dot sights. They're very bright and nice. A note on Smith & Wesson's as well, if you're shopping these, is on the shields, the front sights, for some reason, at least the way it's historically been, it's like they're welded in there. We're talking breaking sight pushers, bending punches, trying to get sights out. So I've actually had gunsmiths decline swapping the front sight post on shields. Either you got to have a good pusher or some patience, or when you're shopping through all the different variants and models of these things, if you want night sights, get the one that comes with night sights so you don't have to worry about it. I also want to notice that the scale serrations back here, you notice this last one is a little bit broader. You have a little bit of a step there. That's to help give you a stopping point to be able to grab and rack. So nicely done there as well. Next we'll field strip the Shield Plus and take a look inside the gun. There are 2 ways to field strip the MMP9 Shield Plus. First off, we're going to lock the slide to the rear, which lets us check for clear, make sure there's no rounds in there. You can do it with or without pulling the trigger. I'm going to show the without pulling the trigger method. Some people want that. Some law enforcement departments sought that out as well. Just as a safety method, it is a little more complicated, but it's where that yellowish piece comes in. Let's see if I can get the camera in there. You guys can see that little yellowish piece sticking up. You've got to lean that forward. The manual suggests using a small screwdriver or something. I'm going to use a chamber flag. See if I can do this by looking through the camera. It'll do it off camera just fine. No, sorry, I'm gonna have to use my naked eye to do this, which may or may not present the best camera angle. There we go. And it pushes down and forward. You see that thing is now out of the way in there. What that lets you do, you rotate this lever down. I find it easier to push with my right hand thumb than it is to pull with my left. With that down, and you can now bring the slide off the front. And there's our yellowish lever inside. What do you think, guys? Yellow or yellowish? I did a white balance check before I started filming, so it looks kind of green maybe. I think it's pretty yellow. Anyways, we can look inside our frame, see our nice big steel rails here, and everything pretty much as we've come to expect from most of striker fired pistols before. This trigger bar is nicely polished. take a look underneath our slide, and this really impressed me. I gotta say hats off to Smith & Wesson, considering they've already made more than 1 million shields, and this slide essentially being the same slide as the Shield Plus. There might be some minor changes. Those of you who are Smith & Wesson nerds can tell me, because I don't know. But look how clean the machining is in there. That is really beautifully done, and this has a very nice coating on it as well. Also happy to see the dual recoil spring. These dual springs tend to make it a little bit easier to rack things because you can get some momentum going on one spring before the stiffness of the second spring catches up. In general, the shorter your barrel or slide is, the firmer the spring needs to be for the gun to work properly. That's what makes small guns hard to rack, and like your 5-inch long guns very easy to rack. You also get less real estate to grab onto on these little guns, so that further amplifies the challenge there. To get the spring out, we're going to give it a little bit of pressure, and it'll unseat. No index points on there, it's all round, fully captured. You want to unlock your barrel. It might fall loose like this. If not, just give it a tap. Bring it forward and down a little bit, and then you can bring it out of the rear. And we can take a look at our itty bitty barrel and that nicely polished feed ramp. Very nicely done. Next, we'll check for chamber support. Chamber support is basically looking at how much of the brass is supported by the chamber. And that's important because should you have a case rupture or fail, it's going to happen where it doesn't have support and send some of that, gosh, I've forgotten again, the how much PSI 9mm has. Too many numbers to memorize, but it's a lot of force. I mean, it's enough to explode this bullet out at a high rate of speed, right? Some of that into your hand instead of out the barrel. So I prefer full chamber support. We're going to drop the round in and listen for the plunk. This chamber does appear to have a little bit of dirt in it, maybe from a test fire. Sounded pretty good. And we're looking to see how much brass is supported. Usually I like to see it go up to that fold there. Maybe, okay, it's just dirty chamber. Not, I want to see, we can still rotate the cartridge. So just a slight divot there, but it looks to be quite well supported, which is a good thing. That's if you have a case rupture, you're running questionable brass, might have been reloaded by your uncle, or aluminum case, anything like that. All kinds of reasons why you could have a case rupture, and believe it or not, it does happen even with well-made factory ammunition. So a fully supported chamber like this is appreciated. I'm going to reassemble this just by reversing what I did to take it apart, and while I do that, I'll talk about what you'll see in our shooting impressions video. You'll get the cold shots first impressions from two shooters, Miss Tia and I. Now, they will not be absolute because, like I said, I did a one-day handgun course with one of these in the past, and Miss Tia has also shot one herself, but we haven't shot this one, and it has been a while since we did that. We'll do a full magazine plus one to see how these magazines run fully stuffed. Then we'll do our trademark What's for Dinner test using 10 additional loads other than the ammunition we were already using to see what it likes to eat or what it doesn't want to eat. We'll try out this little bitty barrel and sight radius on our spinner target for sights and trigger control test. May not flip the spinner, but it'll be a good way to get some thoughts on this trigger. Then you'll see our practical accuracy shots, 5 shots from 7 yards. Before you get the concluding thoughts from the two of us, I'm interested to hear Miss Tia's opinions because, well, she's been carrying the Shield for quite a while now and has some mixed opinions of it. Is this Shield Plus going to be enough to change her opinion or not? Right there is something that is an extra step if you've deactivated the sear like that, that yellow bar down there. I've got a dead trigger, the gun's not working. Oh no, what have I done? All you gotta do to get that little yellow bar back up to where it needs to be is insert a magazine, and now it's pushed back into place, and the gun is functional again. So a nice little trip, and you don't need to do that yellow bar step for field stripping if you're going to just pull the trigger upon release. So for field stripping without doing the yellow bar thing, There you go. And when we put it all back together, notice that yellow bar is still up. Rotate that back in place, and everything's simpler. It's just a feature that they worked in there for agencies and states that wanted, and people who don't want to have to pull the trigger to field strip. Anyways, that concludes our tabletop review of the M&P 9 Shield Plus. We'll see you guys on the range. Thanks for watching.